So for the past few days, I've been trying to think of a good video to do about Deep Blue Sea 3. Because after I watched that film, I really wanted to do a video about Deep Blue Sea 3. Whether it just be a review of the whole dang movie, explaining my thoughts, or just comparing how this holds up towards Deep Blue Sea 1. And then I just straight up thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and compare it to Deep Blue Sea 1, see what this film gets right and what the original film got wrong. Because funny enough, Deep Blue Sea definitely had something wrong, obviously. I've been complaining about it back then, a few videos earlier, and I think you already know what the dang chase is. But I want to compare a little bit more, and I have a little bit more things to talk about between these two films. These are the best Deep Blue Sea films we can watch so far. The first classic, and the second, not the second movie, the second best Deep Blue Sea film, Deep Blue Sea 3. I never thought it would be that great, but it was actually really good, and there's something that I really enjoyed about this film more than Deep Blue Sea 1 at some degree. I mean, I still love the original film, don't get me wrong, but this here, there's something I really had to talk about. And there's only just two topics I'm going over, and that is the characters and the ending of the movie. Because this has to be addressed right the heck now. So right now, let's get on to the chase. First off, the characters, both from Deep Blue Sea and Deep Blue Sea 3. What's the comparison? So, right off the bat, I'm not saying any of the original Deep Blue Sea characters are bad. I mean, one character isn't the best, and that's Jim Whitlock, in my opinion. But everybody else, I pretty much enjoyed, at some degree. I mostly love, at least 2-3 characters for the most part. But then again, it's I do have opposing thoughts on a few characters, at least. What I'm mainly talking about is how the characters are in the third movie, and how the antagonists, keep in mind, antagonists work in much in a better light in this film than in Deep Blue Sea 1. Because right now, right off the bat, like I said before, I refuse to believe Susan was an antagonist. Because she really had good intentions, and she was really trying to save people from a fatal disease, despite taking that big risk and violating the Harvard Compact. So screw off, haters. Anyway, the main villain of Deep Blue Sea, Lucas, not Richard, is actually one of the best we have as a villain for Deep Blue Sea, at least like this. So, yeah, it's very shown, obviously, but the way it works is because of Richard, who we were supposed to see as a villain, but he's not really one of them. As the film progresses, he doesn't give two shits about the money. He cares about sharks in some way that makes it feel like a redeemable character. Yeah, he may have hold one of the bull sharks at gunpoint and threatened the other killer sharks, but that was because Lucas. He was just doing Lucas's dirty work at this point. Much like Susan, he made a fatal mistake and regrets doing so when shit hits the fan. And the character dynamic of the protagonist finding out about this bad news also works much better than the first movie. So, let's talk about how the original film works. Like how this one works or what that film gets wrong. I love this movie a lot, as I said before, but what's starting to bug me is how much the dynamic with the characters, or the opposing characters, towards Susan. Like how this whole dang thing went downhill. All except Franklin, Russell Franklin, were a part of this big groundbreaking operation that used these deadly sharks to, gather what they need, which is the cure for Alzheimer's at this point. And yeah, Susan was the brainchild of the whole thing, but if I were getting scolded at about, all this stuff, all these people who helped me, scolding at me over this, I would probably tell them, what has become of you? I know I fucked up majorly, but would any of y'all do the same? Taking a big risk like this? We always had a thought of playing God deep down inside. All the characters are now suddenly turning their back against her. And rather than acknowledging her screw up and moving on, that's how the dang scene ends up being. It's even worse during a deleted scene with Susan and Jan. I mean, you would see how this works. Jan was explaining a little bit more about Jim that Susan might not know too much about, but at this point it was only there to make Susan look really freaking feel even more terrible about the situation. Susan's whole motive in this whole dang thing was to doing it for her parents, especially her father, well, mostly her mother, but it doesn't matter who the two is, her parents. They also were Alzheimer's patients as well. Remember that iconic introduction scene with Susan? Remember the deleted speech sequence too? Like, that, one of the few moments they should have never removed from this movie. That is enough for you guys to know why she's doing all of this, and why she isn't really a terrible character. She's just a flawed character going through so much hell and trying to make the best of her role. And good God, where the hell is that original freaking ending? Also, to keep things short about this whole dang thing, I found a comment that I found on a clip of the original film, best explaining the situation. And honestly, it's mostly a more thought out version of my complaint towards people, or should I say the dumbass test audience that felt about Susan and her actions. It honestly makes me feel happy that I'm not alone on this, because everywhere I go I just see a lot of people not understanding what Susan's initial survival really meant. And speaking of initial survival, let's talk about Deep Blue Sea 3 again. The climactic battle between the humans and the sharks was thrilling. I really enjoyed what happens in that part of the movie, as much as I do in the original film. And what's even more awesome that there was a creative shark death. Last time we saw those was the Shallows and the Meg that had creative shark deaths. Also, I really never expected that there was also a protagonist shark, Sally the Great White Shark. That was just freaking sweet. That gave me Jaws 3 vibes, to be honest, with the dolphins. But, okay, getting back on topic. So, Shaw, he sacrifices himself, killing off 2 of the 3 bull sharks. And it's like, honestly, I'm gonna say this right here. It works so much better than the so-called sacrificial death of Susan in the first movie. Like, literally, her death is not really sacrificial. She should be swimming away. Also, Emma and Nandi were in shock and saddened when this happened. They literally lost somebody, and you could feel their emotion. Unlike in the original film's dumb reshot ending to where Preach and Carter kill the shark, it just straight up doesn't even have them more into the death of Susan. They just don't give a crap. Like, literally. After they kill the big 45-foot shark, that's it. That's what's missing. More than the death of the one person that redeemed herself. This is stupid. If it weren't for that friggin' audience being more stupider than Jim Wetlock getting too close to the Mako shark with a damn cigarette, presumably making the shark more irritated at the smell of marijuana, then I think Deep Blue Sea would have probably had a much better story and a much more sensible, freaking satisfying ending. That's what I mean to talk about. Also, Susan and Carter were actually kind of a thing in this movie. You may not notice it too much, because they keep removing a bunch of scenes, but there was no denying that when that kissing happened at the end of the movie, that's basically more evidence. Deep Blue Sea 3's ending may not have no romantic relationship be delivered too much, but the ending was more satisfying to me in that film, because it all ended making sense and feeling less stupid. The scene also had a feel-good aspect that I just ate that stuff up. I really loved that. Also, the best thing about this, surprisingly, is that all the remaining female characters survived, because all the male characters died. Strange enough. But honestly, it should be a big surprise, because this is a creature film. You can do anything with your movie and having characters survive or dying, but this was a big surprise. This was Deep Blue Sea. You usually kill off 1 or 2 female characters and that's it. And honestly, again, it was a real shocker for me as a fan of creature flicks. Deep Blue Sea 3 had characters that I didn't cringe at, so I was really happy, all in all, with this. But I'm gonna be alright with freaking at least one of them dying. Even though I like them, I would have probably be fine with at least 1 or 2 of them dying, if the context made sense. But again, I'm fine with this ending. So, yeah, great job, Deep Blue Sea 3. So yeah, that's my comparison. I still love Deep Blue Sea, the original film, without a doubt. Great camera work, amazing and unforgettable score by Trevor Rabin, some engaging characters along the way, and a really good story for the shark movie. But over time I feel great displeasure with the film's cruddy ending as a result. I don't know why, but every time I rewatch this classic film, I always turn it off when Carter just jumps into the freaking water to get Susan. And then that's it. It makes it feel like an unresolved cliffhanger, to be honest. I mean, you might be thinking that's freaking stupid, but that's how I feel. I've been thinking about doing some kind of reading of my own fan-made script reading of, the better ending. Also, finding a way to riddle in those alternate and much more chilling dialogue from the film's TV spot. Like, literally, Some of these TV spots are really fun to watch because they got alternate stuff that was the original intention before they straight up screwed the whole dang movie over with dumbass audiences complaining about the goddamn ending. I want to feel more happy with the movie as a whole, not just half of the movie. Warner Brothers or any of the filmmakers, Rennie Harlan especially, should really just go ahead and release this ending somehow. This ending is really important to me, at least, to say. They really should have just find a way to do so, because if they can make all these other movies with all these other alternate material that most people can freaking love and enjoy, because archival material has to be preserved, you know. It doesn't need to be freaking, you know, kept, like, preserved in a way it's like, oh, you can't see this. No, it should be preserved and then release it when it's at the right time. I mean, why make us all these sequels but not give the original film more love by providing us more with this content of the film? I mean, I almost lost hope when Deep Blue Sea 2 was released, much to my huge disappointment over time. I mean, coming from somebody who wanted a Deep Blue Sea sequel, a lower budgeted rehash of the original film with bad characters, forgettable music, screeching baby bull sharks, crappy sci-fi channel CGI, and only one good bull shark animatronic was not enough. While I'm pleased with Deep Blue Sea 3 very much, I'm already hearing some people ask for a fourth film. I'm not asking for that. And in fact, I have a feeling that, like, even if you make a fourth film, what the heck else is there to do with this series that is now a trilogy? I doubt they'll make another movie about the aftermath of the original film that will feature returning actors like Thomas Jane, LL Cool J, possibly, if the character would live or die in the original ending, that supposedly, and of course Saffron Burrows as Susan, and a course correction ending to where they could have her character survival as a plot element for the movie about God knows what else would happen. Although I might make that film in the future, if I could definitely get my A game back up. So yeah, thanks for watching this video. It was going off a little too long, but that's the point. I wanted to talk about this because I felt like if anybody understood where I'm coming from, this is something that has to be addressed. And plus, Deep Blue Sea 3 is also one of those movies where some people probably just don't understand it and just think it's another dumb movie. But it does have some dumb moments. Richard's death, in my opinion, was one of the stupidest moments in the movie, but I don't care about that. There was a lot of things that backed it up. So thank you guys for watching this video. I'm gonna go take a dang break now. I got a freaking migraine, and I'll be seeing you guys later. Also, this is just nice here. This is a tweet I posted, and Rennie Harlan actually liked it. This is just hours after I just finished the video, so I'm so happy, you know. I really am.